Redemption rights. Redemption rights, again, is a way for a VC to protect his investment. And which way do redemption rights, you can see it over here. So in which way do redemption rights work? Actually, you remember the business model of a venture capitalist. The VC raises money, and the fund where the money is flowing in has a duration of, let's say, 8 to 12 years. So after 8 to 12 years, maybe there's some grace period afterwards, and the VC has to pay back his own investors. This is when the VC needs the money. So now take the case, you had a VC investment in 2002, and in 2006 or 2008, after 6 years, the fund is ending. So you run into 2008 and the financial crisis is there. There's no way to sell your company. There's no way to go public. There's really not a good way to exit the company. Entrepreneurs don't want to exit at that moment. Now, what a VC can use is a redemption right, at least in order to go out of this investment to certain conditions which are not really very positive for a VC, because this is not what his business model is about, but at least he can pay back his own investors. So this is how it works. The redemption right is a right that the target grants the investor to redeem the outstanding stock at least at the purchase price plus declared and unpaid dividends. The stock the VC has is to be sold to the entrepreneurs or to the company, and the VC gets his initial price plus X, and that X is either dividends, and in most cases is also like a yearly interest rate of 7, 8, 10%, something like that, at least. So it's not a really low interest rate. And this is a way when the fund ends and the grace period also has ended, to give the VC the right to exit for conditions which the entrepreneur might be able also to pay. And gives the VC the chance again to work on his business model in a proper way. So in most cases, redemption rights are used after a certain period of time. That was the case before. So the fund runs until 2008, and he says in 2008, I need a redemption right because then my fund ends. And nobody knew before that the financial crisis could come up. Sometimes also in a case of material adverse change. So I mean, if the business model changes, if the company fails to some extent, the VC uses the redemption right to step out of his investment. I would be very careful as an entrepreneur to grant the redemption right to a VC. In the first case, when the fund ends, it's understandable, at least to some extent. We all know the business model of the VC, and we have to agree with him on the business model. That's the deal we made. So if the fund ends, he has some right to get back his investment. I mean, we are always still talking about risky investments and venture capital. So does he really have a right for a payback? You can argue that. Otherwise, it's just bank money or loans or debt. But at least it's understandable that the VC tries to get redemption rights in the case the fund structure or the fund ends. In the second case, material adverse change, it is hard to define that. And actually, as an entrepreneur, I'd be very careful with that, because the VCs, if it's not well defined, the VC can also use that as a cheap excuse to leave the venture in those cases. And in most cases, nobody's really able to pay for the redemption right, because the money is gone, or most of the money is gone, and that might mean bankruptcy for the whole company, and VC walks out with everything. So maybe you can agree on a redemption right in the first case, try to avoid it in the second case, and in total, try to avoid a redemption right, try to work on value creation and the right business model. However, everybody knows things can happen like financial crisis, and then there's a new situation both parties have to work with. If you look at that from a theoretical perspective, again, especially the fund structure is addressed. So this is what the VC wants. If you talk about aligning interests, that's the interest of the VC, and at least you know about this interest. So aligning interest means you agree on the fund structure, you agree on a redemption right. You can, to some extent, prevent moral hazard if the entrepreneur never wanted to sell. And this is what, again, the theoretical perspective on this right is about. And that makes you really understand that.